This might not be the most comfortable video, but I feel it's definitely important. I'm not much the type to let a problem just fester, and when it concerns how anime fans are perceived publicly, I find it exceptionally important. Essentially, anime fans have always been negatively stereotyped, but social media now has an armory of buzzwords to stigmatize fans. Rather than just dismissing these terms, I think we'd be better off confronting them to see where the line is between blatant insult and constructive criticism. After all, while stereotyping is bad, it does exist for a reason, and cultural discourse has pointed out various toxic characteristics that, sadly, can and do pervade the fandoms we're a part of. That said, I'm no psychologist, and these are my views as an anime fan who has had close encounters with the topic, and I truly feel there are some valid points to discuss. As this is a discussion, I highly encourage you to participate in the comments, or even by sharing this video to relevant platforms. Specifically, the three buzzwords I want to focus on are incels, neckbeards, and nice guys. While these words do have their nuance, they're often used interchangeably and tend to describe the same characteristics. Thus, I'll be addressing the context of these terms, but then extracting from them the more prevalent traits they refer to. As a disclaimer, this entire video is framed from a male perspective, since that's what I'm able to provide. Even so, I don't think these issues are exclusive to men either. Women have other terms often thrown at them for being anime fans, but the underlying traits can still be applied regardless of gender or sexual preference. Let's go ahead and start with nice guys, since I feel it's been around the longest. It's interesting because of how it once started out as a positive thing that is now infamously stigmatized. At first, the concept of a nice guy branched from the idea that nice guys finish last, which referred to a narrative that girls frequently favored dating bad boys, like jocks or delinquents, who by nature are unfaithful or insincere. From the perspective of an unpopular guy, it may seem that the men who get all the attention don't deserve it, since they take that fame for granted and treat their women like dirt. Hearing a woman complain about their partners only reinforces to the nice guys that they deserve the attention instead. Now, I did say this was a narrative, and just as a stereotype can be harmful, there are disingenuous aspects of this framing. After all, it comes from a perspective of envy, a resentment toward anyone who is popular with women, immediately assuming the worst. Given that I've been an anime fan since before I was even 10 years old, during the early 2000s in particular, I certainly felt resonance with this narrative. I'm guilty on that count, but that's precisely why I can say there is a humble sentiment within. It's less about resenting the bad boys, and more about holding true to the conviction that if I were given the same chance as the popular guys, I wouldn't screw it up or take it for granted. If I had a girlfriend, I'd be faithful and appreciative. I'd treat my girl right, and I only wish women could see that. It's a noble idea, and yet reality has proven it wrong. For one, it invalidates a woman's autonomy. You're criticizing their choice in men, and using confirmation bias to comfort your own wounded ego. Of course every other man with a girlfriend must be a total douchebag. There's no possible way relationship drama could happen otherwise. It's a naive take that proves inexperience, and that's exactly why the term nice guy is used to describe creepy men. While they claim to be kind and sincere, likely with the best intentions, they simply lack the experience to properly manage a relationship and can retaliate when reality doesn't match the image in their head. It's understandable too. Relationships are hard. Learning to truly listen to someone, to adjust your expectations based on feedback, can take a lot of practice and self-reflection. Sadly, that means there probably are plenty of popular jerks out there who are objectively better at dating because they've had that practice. Then we have the neckbeard, which I find to be outright insulting. One would think that feminists who promote body positivity and freedom from traditional beauty standards would be more forgiving with men who don't shave frequently enough. Seriously, depending on your genetics, fighting the rapid growth of male facial hair is far more laborious than demanding a woman to shave her legs or pits. Because of this attitude, I find the term neckbeard used mostly to belittle people and their lifestyles, rather than as a legitimate criticism over personal hygiene and presentation. Still, I can address it. Okay, so it was my first summer after starting college, and I had trouble finding a job. Since applications were mainly online and callbacks were few and far between, I spent a lot of that summer as a shut-in, teaching myself Adobe After Effects. Adi-chan was out of state, and I had little reason to leave my apartment, so naturally I didn't prioritize shaving. I also didn't get a haircut because for whatever reason I thought long hair was cool. Neither my brother nor any of my guy friends really cared what I looked like, and so I thought everything was alright. When visiting a friend's home, however, their dog barked at me, and when I wondered why, my friend's dad said it was because, and I kid you not, I looked like a terrorist. I lived in a conservative mountain town filled with old white Christians, but even this struck me hard. Obviously the dad was in the wrong, what he said was racist as fuck, but it helped me realize something. People are going to judge you on your appearance, whether you like it or not. While you have no obligation to comply, it is worth looking yourself in the mirror and wondering how you want to present yourself. It's not like I was fond of facial hair, I was just lazy and had no one to impress. Turns out we always have ourselves to impress. That's the moral of the story. It's not how I looked that mattered. It was the fact that I looked that way because I couldn't be bothered otherwise. Mind you, this was not a hygiene issue. I pride myself on not smelling like your typical con-goer. Either way, one thing is clear. Taking care of yourself is healthy. And if you can't love yourself, how can you expect other people to? Still, for those who truly prefer to go full Gandalf, nobody should have to tell you otherwise. And it certainly doesn't mean you don't care about your appearance. Hence why neckbeard is a bullshit stereotype, often used to condemn people for owning dakimakura, living in their mom's basement, or putting waifu decals on their car. Lastly, we have the incel, which stands for involuntary celibate. It means somebody wants to get laid, but can't secure a partner to sleep with. The oddest part about this term in particular is that some people self-identify as such. It gets special hate, not necessarily because incels are virgins, but because they believe they aren't doing anything wrong. If women aren't lining up to gob your novel, then it must be society's fault and not yours. It's the attitude more than the status, really, breeding a slew of misogyny in its wake. If a woman doesn't want to sleep with me, that means there's something wrong with her. I'd probably have gotten laid tons by now, if women weren't all becoming lesbians or standing up for their rights. Sadly, this term too gets thrown around to shame otaku for their fantasies, which is why it's better to abandon the terms themselves and instead focus on the traits they condemn. For instance, one of the key complaints about nice guys and neckbeards is social awkwardness. Either they don't get out much, are too nervous, or perhaps even have an impairment that makes it hard to follow social cues, such as knowing when to start a conversation, when to back off, how to gauge the pace of the interaction, and most of all, truly listening to the other person. The unfortunate truth is that this awkwardness makes people seem creepy, even when they have good intentions. You can't exactly blame anyone for feeling uncomfortable either, because antisocial people tend to come off as unpredictable, and a lack of predictability is dangerous. If you don't know how someone will respond in conversation, you have to keep your guard up, anticipating any unexpected friction, which makes it nigh impossible to open up to them. I've seen my fair share of this with anime fans, mainly through people who are just nervous. They can talk for hours with a friend about their passions, or in the right company, but completely fall apart when out of that safe space. That, or they assume because it's okay to act a certain way in one situation, that it's okay to continue that behavior in a completely different context. And you know what? That's just human. We all struggle communicating, but the important part is that we keep at it, and never forsake the practice, as social norms and customs change over time. Doing so will teach you not just about other people, but also yourself. As far as the nice guy thing goes, you may learn that what you think of as being gentlemanly or courteous is actually forceful and off-putting. While I don't think it's okay to make fun of someone for being socially awkward, I do feel it's important for people to be aware how they're being perceived. Communication is one of the most valuable skills we have as humans, and it's critical that we all try to keep up with it. If that were easy, though, I wouldn't have to make this video. The next one's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, but let's return to the hygiene thing. Being an anime fan does not mean that you disregard personal care. Cosplayers in particular are meticulous about their presentation. Still, even if you're accustomed to staying indoors all the time, there's no way around this. You gotta shower and you've gotta use deodorant. I'll say this to anybody. If you're gonna be within breathing distance of me in public, you best brush your teeth. It's just being a decent human being. Obviously, anime conventions get this issue a lot since so many people are crammed together in a small space, but I really would expect this from everyone, and trying to act like only neckbeards let themselves go is disingenuous. I think the harshest criticism of anime fans tends to come from their overwhelming passion, which can serve as a tool for both good and evil. Let me say this though, you have every right to your fantasies and preferences, no matter how unrealistic, so long as you mediate them from the reality around you. Making fun of someone for walking around with a daki, a haigao shirt, or anime-themed merch is pathetic. Telling someone they should lay off the anime to pursue a real woman is a load of shit. Fantasies exist to liberate reality. If your fantasy happens to be a massive harem of thin, busty schoolgirls who cater to your every beck and call, then more power to you. Just don't forget that it's probably not going to happen IRL, and that you can't expect others to indulge in that fantasy with you. They might, but only of their own volition, which you should never force. You can be as shallow in those desires as possible, too. If you're okay with being a virgin, then by all means feel that the only women who appeal to you are nervous moe gals that want you to protect them. Heck, you can even have that fantasy while still maintaining a perfectly acceptable real-life romance with someone who doesn't meet those standards, because real life and fantasy are totally different things. I've got etchy wall scrolls and figures all about my house, and so long as my wife doesn't mind that, I don't mind that she covers the walls with boys love or shirtless dudes. We love each other, and we respect each other's fantasies. So unless you're telling real women that they need to look or behave a certain way for you to treat them as fellow human beings, your preference for a waifu over a real person is perfectly fine. Go out and draw scantily clad chicks in bizarre poses and exaggerated proportions. That's your way of indulging your fantasies without taking it out on real people. After all, well, I believe we all start off with a right to be respected. Nobody is born with a right to be loved, preferred, or desired. It may sound harsh, but that's just the nature of autonomy. Nobody should be offended if you'd rather bang a robot, computer program, or any other fantasy over a real person, so long as you're not forcing anyone to indulge that with you. That's when you wind up with out-of-shape, obese guys expecting women to be all skinny. If you do pursue a live human relationship, though, you've got to play by the rules of reality. That means making compromises, understanding other people, communicating, and having both the discipline and integrity to control yourself and do what is civil and courteous. After all, I say it all the time on this channel, let fiction be fiction. This applies to the SJWs and pro-censorship snowflakes who try to police our thoughts and fantasies, but it also applies to us. In order to freely consume and express our fantasies, we need to be responsible, respectable people, no matter what those fantasies entail. And that leads us to our next negative trait, entitlement. It seems many people have reasonably pointed out that nice guys, incels, what have you, have ulterior motives behind their presumed kindness. All the miladies, door-holding, dinner-buying, that by itself is indeed chivalrous, and may even help build a strong relationship, but that in no way serves as compensation for affection or sexual favors. If you're only nice to someone until you find out if they're gonna put out or not, you aren't actually nice at all. Thing is, you can be the best guy in the world who does absolutely everything right and still not earn someone's affection. At the same time, you can be a total failure and have someone's love and support through your absolute worst times. The world is weird like that, and it's all because we get to make our own choices. The only way to really win is to genuinely find joy in what you do and hope that will resonate with someone else. That doesn't mean being conceited, believing you have no faults, nor does it mean compromising your values to get people to like you. If you love someone but they don't love you back, that's just how it is sometimes. A true gentleman won't retaliate or throw a fit over it. So where does anime fit into all of this? There's no arguing that anime is a wonderful form of escapism and wish fulfillment. You can enjoy it in the privacy of your own home, and no matter how badly you screw up in life, your fandom and fantasies will always be there for you. Dating sims can help you feel loved, providing you with parasocial relationships that exist only on your terms. The characters can be your ideal women, perhaps even better than real life when you account for art style and imagination being the only limit. In many ways, it's almost possible to entirely supplant your reality by consuming or creating anime merch or media. Same goes for any expansive geek fandom. In general, I don't blame anyone for indulging in such a lifestyle, but there is an exceptional irony to the whole thing. I personally believe that a full escape from reality results in a less immersive escapism. It sounds contradictory, but hear me out. In essence, escapism is simply a process of cherry-picking aspects of reality we want and removing the aspects that we don't want. Even the most absurd fantasies have roots in an actual human experience if you trace them back far enough. Inevitably, this means the less reality you're exposed to, the shallower your fantasies become. Inversely, this means that people who indulge in the real world have a more vast vocabulary of experiences, allowing them to appreciate a wider variety of fantasies. Sure, exclusive exposure to anime can still lead you to picking up different genres or works within the medium, but odds are you'll be missing out on the full depth those works contain. I can guarantee you that anime such as A Silent Voice or Your Lie in April will be more impactful, more meaningful if you've ever had to deal with bullying or losing a loved one. Even painful experiences like that can enhance the emotional value of your escapism. Some people claim that fiction is to blame for influencing our reality, but I'm more inclined to say it's our reality that influences fiction. And while that doesn't mean we should go out and intentionally do things that are reckless, dangerous, or harmful, I do feel that forming human connections and trying out different things will naturally broaden your fictional horizons. To avoid such things is what I call mental abstinence. Even more ironically, this plagues both anime fans and censor-heavy snowflakes. The same instinct to protect the innocent mind from corruption, to only indulge in politically correct or woke ideology, is the very same instinct that keeps some anime fans stuck at home, unable to handle the outside world with confidence, in turn ruining the quality of their anime. So, I've spun us all around this topic, but before I hand the discussion off to you, I want to clarify some things. I'm in no way saying it's okay for people to trash anime fans by labeling them nice guys, incels, and neckbeards, but I do feel these harmful terms refer to traits that may potentially affect fans. I don't think anime makes people antisocial, creepy, entitled, or reclusive, but it can certainly accommodate people as they develop these traits. Since I've personally had experience growing up with these stigmas, I understand that fans are vulnerable to them. While I don't think fans should avoid them just because they get made fun of for it, I do feel that self-awareness and improvement are part of what it means to celebrate one's fandom. It's actually the winning strategy to take your appreciation of anime to a whole new level. The more we do this, the more we enable ourselves to openly express our love for anime without criticism. For instance, I'd love to see some guy in the love of his life rocking around town in a sports car totally decked out in Hatsune Miku, or a couple wearing Ahegao lingerie to the bedroom. I'd love for such things to be seen as admirable rather than pathetic. With that, I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching! If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and, most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of my anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content. If you want to support me directly, there are now 3 ways that all provide the same benefits. You can click Join here on YouTube, or join Patreon or Subscribestar for access to exclusive vids and early access. As always, celebrate your fandom!